Okay. Larry, thank you so much for being here. I'm just going to ask a few questions so you could share with folks what your experience was like working with Grace for Living After Loss, and specifically the membership of Grief Relief Nation. So can we start by you just sharing with us who you lost and when, and kind of your journey for trying to find help and resources initially?
Sure, I'm glad to. I lost my wife approximately 13 months ago. In about 2 days, it'll be 13 months. And although that was the culmination, that's where the loss, people think that's where the loss started. But she was sick for about 3 or 4 months before that. So the trauma of the loss starts sometimes before the loss itself. And she came down with pancreatic cancer. And I don't know if you know much about pancreatic cancer, but it does not take prisoners. And I went through the 4 months with the help of the hospice people. Then she passed away. And I found myself utterly and completely devastated.
Mm-hmm.
I really did not know what to do or how to do it. I mean, I was in a complete state of shock. I had lost probably 15, 20 pounds. I couldn't eat. I had trouble sleeping. I mean, the entire life experience was at that time a very bad thing. The idea of even eating a meal to me was like a chore. It was like taking out the trash. It was something you just had to do. But I was in that for a short period of time, actually, as I look back on it. And I never thought I would be in the position I am today then, because I was kind of, ye without hope, and, enter here. That's the way I felt. And my only advice I would have to anybody at that stage is, when you're in that stage, what you need to do is first take care of your survival. And you got to eat whether you're hungry. You got to try to sleep at the same time if you can. And you don't want to isolate. You got to get out. And if you can get a support group, a grief buddy, somebody who will help you with those early chores that you have to do, notifications, that's the thing to do. What's changed my journey was just the opposite of what I think was trying to be done. Is I told you this story where I went to a grief counseling session.
A support group, right? Didn't you
Yeah.
go to a group? Yeah.
And I went to the support group, put on by the local hospice, and I thought, okay, this will help me. And it did, but in a completely inverse way. I went in there, there's probably 30, 35 people. My daughter went with me, and we sat there and we just listened to them talking about how sad they are. And as they talked, I realized that some of these people have been there months. Some of these people have been there for years. And there's just something, my daughter leaned over to me and she says, let's get out of here. This is depressing. And I says, no, I want to say something first. And so I said to these people, I guess I had no shyness at that time. I said, you people are stuck in grief. I'm new to this. It's been about 3 weeks since I lost my wife, but I can see you people are stuck in grief. I'm in grief. I don't like grief.
Right.
Grief is a nasty, cold.
Grief is not your friend. Yeah.
I don't want to be here, and I'm going to get out of here.
Yeah.
And I suggest that you people stop grieving. Get out of the grief and start grieving. Now, how did I know that? Well, part of what I found you on the internet, where you've got a whole video on that. But like any problem I've ever faced in my life, my solution has always been to research it, learn as much about it as I could. So I studied as much as I could about grief. And I decided that I was going to be an active participant in my grief recovery.
Amen.
And I was not just going to sit there and wait for time to take care of it, because I don't think time will take care of it. And as I looked at your resources and other experts in the field, I found that there's only one way to get through it. You got to go through the grieving process. And the grieving process is where you have to open up and you have to face the pain. You have to understand that your losses happen. In my case, grief to me destroys your identity. That person you were when you were with your loved one is no longer the person you are. And there's nothing you can do about it, because I guess the psychologists call it the we to me situation. You're going from my wife and I were very close. We shared everything. And all of a sudden I found myself, I have to make all the decisions now. There's no more we.
Right.
So I have to do this. My identity, my paradigm, that lens through which I saw the world closed. And I realized that I was becoming a new person. And it's a little scary, but at the same time, I had no choice, because my life now was completely changed. And one thing I learned from you too, as you have talked about in many of your videos, that the road to healing, the road to recovery, it's a bumpy road, but it requires a tremendous amount of work. You've got to work at it. You just can't sit there and wait for healing to come to you. I learned that. And although this journey over the last 13 months has been an arduous journey, it's also been a journey of self-discovery for me. Because I found as I got into it, there were things that I was able to control for the first time. And one of them was my own mind. I was able to actively accept the fact that my life has now changed. And the only thing I can do is build on that. And then you get into your idea about your mind changes over time. That is entirely true. Because when you first face grief, you want to cling to the sameness. I don't want to accept the fact that I no longer have a spouse, that I'm now living alone for the first time in 40 years, that it's lonely, and you fight it. But then when you say 67 days or something like that, I don't know.
63 days, yeah.
That's the exact date for me. But after a while, I kept telling myself, no, that's not right. I can do this. I can recover from this. And I can accept this, and I will move on, and I will have even a stronger life. And that is basically, Kelly, what has happened.
I love it.
13 months. I'm stronger now than I was 13 months ago, but I'm not the same person.
Yep.
You're not looking at the same guy you would have seen 13 months ago. And, it just came down to one thing. When it comes to my wife and my loved one, I had two choices. I could either carry my wife's grief around with me, or I could carry my wife's love around with me.
Mm.
Well, guess which one I chose.
Yeah.
Yeah, what you will, but that's basically my story in a nutshell.
That's amazing. Well, and I've told you so many times, like, you are a star pupil of our membership. And for folks who don't know, if they're watching this, the membership is comprised of two main parts. There's an extensive video library of video lessons and worksheets, and then there's weekly group calls with the coach. And you were active in both, and I'm super proud. You went through every single lesson that we had. You did it and then some. And I think you were only in the membership for about 4 months or so. So can you just talk a little bit about what your experience was like being in the membership and going through the lessons and the group coaching calls? Were there any like major ahas from the lessons that you learned, or anything you want to share that way?
Well, the Tuesday night meetings are the ones, and I got to meet some of the other people that were also in your program, and we learn from each other,
Yeah.
and then I would ask questions, and sometimes I would kind of go off. There are two schools of thought that I found in grief management or getting over grief. One is the idea that grief stays the same, and same intensity, and it never changes. And the only thing you can do is carry it with you. And the other one is your school. It's much better. It's much more optimistic. It shows that yes, you can get over this. That grief does not stay the same intensity, and yes, you're always going to carry the thought of your loved one, but the grief is not going to destroy it. And that's what the counselors would help me, and you would help me if I got off on going down the wrong road, and say, wait a minute, have you thought of this or that? Which was very helpful. It's part of the learning process.
Yeah, for sure. And that is your mindset and mind frame, right? The way that we view things, the perception that we carry about grief and grieving and how to move forward, or if we can move forward, is 100% like make it or break it. And it's really easy, even if you get the right mindset, to slip back into other ways of thinking. So, well, I'm thrilled. And you're we tend to have more women than men. So I love that as a man, you didn't just try to like blow through this. You recognized you needed to do some work and apply yourself to it, and you did just that. And I got to tell you, and you have to know, Larry, that a lot of people who lose their spouses, especially after been married for so long, do not make this quick of a, adjustment, recovery, whatever. So I think it's a testament to you, and I think it's a testament to the program. And I'm super thankful that you found us, and I'm super thankful for you sharing your experience.
Well, I'm super thankful that I could.
Is there anything else? Last call. Anything else you would want to say to encourage somebody who's maybe they're new to the loss and they're just trying to find their way. Maybe they're looking at different resources and trying to decide what program is right for them. Any encouragement you would give them?
Well, you're saying about the night's always darkest just before dawn. I look back 13 months ago, and I never would believe I'd be sitting here saying what I'm saying now. For the first few months, I couldn't even talk without breaking down, But the whole point, I guess, if you're going to make one point, is that if you follow your program, it's fine and dandy, but you still got to do the work. And it is hard work, but it's very rewarding work. It will bring you on the light. It will bring you into the light on the other side. You're not going to be stuck in that awful place of grief for the rest of your life. Don't stay there. You don't need to be there. I'm a testimonial to the fact that I'm not there anymore, and there's no way I'm going back.
That's awesome. That's amazing. Thanks so much. I'm going to